And hello, good people of the internet. This is Tommy Kelly, and this is, of course, the Tommy Kelly podcast. And in this podcast, we have two sections. It's interesting because I record the opening now of it after the sections. Actually, I recorded this podcast a number of times and got like 5-10 minutes in and just went, oh, this is totally rubbish, or it was just more than usual rambling, or just not being coherent in any kind of sense, whatever. So when I got to the second section, which is about could I personally destroy the 47s if I wanted to, I refer to earlier where I talked about it, and then I was going, did I actually talk about it? But I think I did. So two sections. The first section is about Timecapsule Magick, where you will do a year-long working. Well, it's based around a year-long working. You can do whatever time you want, where you are magicking up a time capsule and putting your intention into a time capsule, burying it or putting it somewhere. It came out of the 47s group ritual that we did last year, but it doesn't have to be part of the 47s, but you can definitely use it as part of the 47s if you want, or just use it as part of any kind of magic system that you are currently interested in or enjoying. And then again, as I said, the second part is then about a question that came up recently about, can I destroy, or could I delete, in a sense, the 47s if I wanted to, being that I have the originals and I have a self-destruct button within them. So that's the two parts. I hope you enjoy it. I hope that my many takes have brought it to some semblance, that word, of there's some clarity in it and there's some kind of coherence. But if not, it is what it is. So yeah. So basically, last year, to mark the 1-year anniversary of the creation of the 47s, I put up a thing where I said I would do a group ritual where everyone could send in a sentence of a petition or an idea or something that they wanted to manifest or something that they wanted to have for the coming year, on the condition that they couldn't take it back. So it was something that they definitely wanted, that there's going to be some sort of permanency to it, or that it was a serious enough idea that it's not something you were going to change your mind about in a week or so. And I did print all of these out onto paper and I put it into the box, which contains the original 47s, which is the printout of the actual 47s that I used in the ritual that created them, or the final part of the creation that launched them into the world and all that. And I did that on Halloween night. But what basically happened was that a lot of people, not a lot, but a good number of people, got word of that there was something going on that didn't really have an awful lot to do with the 47s or didn't have anything, and kind of came into the group, sent in or emailed me or direct messaged me or whatever, and sent me the petitions, and then kind of just went away. And there was so many people come into it that I knew had just heard something along the way but weren't directly working with the 47s. So I'm not opening this thing to the general public this year because also, I said get a sentence, and people were just sending me paragraphs and pages and stuff like that, and it's just an awful lot of work. And right now, I am so far behind on stuff because of the number of factors, but mostly because of having a baby and stuff like that. And it's kind of put a spanner in the works of my work, a great spanner in the works. I'll say it's a wonderful thing, but it just means I've an awful lot less time, so I don't have time to do something as big as that, and I also don't have the will to do it in the same way, as I don't think it was. Some people did. Some people put enough weight to it or what it was doing, and other people it was another thing that just happened on the internet and magic forums or whatever. So I will be doing it for patrons. So people who are part of the Patreon, who subscribe to me, or whatever that word is, subscribe, pay money, or are members of Patreon, or my patrons on Patreon. They will have the option of putting something that they want to manifest in the box again this year. But the general public, I will not. So in lieu of that, what I've decided is that I would talk a bit about an idea of doing time capsule magic, which is an equivalent thing that you can do for yourself. It doesn't involve me having to do all the work for you. And I think, in a sense, could be more powerful for you because it'll be a more personal thing for you. And I think that magic that's done on a sort of subjective, personal level can be sometimes more effective than a group working, in a very specific group working. But that, having said that, as a caveat to that, group workings are not to be, are wonderful things, and it can work better than an individual working, depending on what you're doing. So basically, the idea was what you're going to do is you're going to come up with something that you want to have manifest in your life over the next year, and try to keep it as succinct as possible. As don't go overboard in that's the thing, like the paragraphs that people were sending me about, this has to happen and that, and trying to explain this thing. Try to have it get it into a sentence or 2 sentences, but also have it. There should be a couple of things that you should think about in that. Have it so that you will know that the magic has worked, that there is an actual event that can happen that you'll go, right, that worked. So rather than say it's just I want increase in money, then you have to ask yourself, how will I know when that happens? How will I know that that has worked? Because you could increase your money by finding $1 or €1 on the street, and there you go, you've increased your wealth for the year by finding this. So it's not really, so how do you know if that's actually works? So you should put in maybe specific amounts or targets or percentages and stuff like that. Again, also thinking and try to keep it as open-ended as possible as well. I want to have a significant raise at work rather than increased wealth, or a reduction in my overheads or costs or something like that. So kind of think of stuff that's general enough that you can allow things to expand on its own, but specific enough that you will know that it actually happened. So you can, if say it was, I want to find, increased love or whatever, not a good one, but I want to find, have a long-term relationship. I want to go on a number of dates, or, something in those type of things. Now, it has to be something that you're not going to change your mind about. So if I suggest not curse work, not any sort of baneful work, because things can change, circumstances can change, everything can change, and halfway through the year you might go, I really don't want that anymore. And part of the beauty of this thing is there's nothing you can do about it, because you're doing it as a year-long working that's going to, that you can't take back. So I would avoid the curse work or whatever. Protection, go for it if that's what you want, but not something that you may regret. Equally, I don't know, breaking up marriages, or getting someone to fall in love with you. But I've problems with love magic, target specific love magic in general, where you're trying to get one person in particular to fall in love with you. I would avoid all of that kind of stuff, because it's just too messy, and you probably will change your mind about it. So then, once you have this 2 sentence, or once, kind of whatever it is, the encapsulation of what your theme is for the year, or what you want to manifest for the year, we're going to put this in a time capsule. And of course, time capsules are buried and all of these things, so we'll get to that. So what we need first is we're going to get a box. And I would say get kind of a sturdy cardboard box, or a tin box, something that's fairly sturdy and will survive, that's not flimsy and it's not going to fall apart or whatever. And make it your own. Paint it. The one I have, it's black. I've did symbols on it first, painted black, so you can't even see the symbols. They're buried within the actual coat of paint. But make this in some way, make it yours, do it up, decorate it, make it magical in some way, so whatever way that is to you. If you want to do this as a 40 servants working, you could put the 40 servant sigils on it, or the Unifying Sigil, or whatever. In fact, the only kind of, if you want to do it as to mark the 40 servants anniversary thing and do it that way, the only thing you would have to include within the box, and we'll get to other stuff that'll be in the box, is the Unifying Sigil. If you just want to do this at any other time, and it's during the year you're listening to this, and you don't want to do it with the 47s or marking anyway, just have it, personalize it whatever way, just stuff that you find is magic to you, and has some sort of significance as far as you're concerned. The other thing is to try and make it holy in some way. Do something that makes it holy. And everyone has kind of a weird kind of thing about holy. Not everyone, some people have. And what I mean by this is make it that it's not mundane, that it has some sort of magical qualities, some sort of spiritual essence to it. And there's plenty of things you can do in that way. And some ideas would be, leave it outside in the full moon, or leave it in a graveyard on a specific grave that that would bless it, or some people leave things in the church overnight or in the chapel, or get it have it with you and get a mass said over it, or to do something that just makes it elevated to something not mundane, but to something that's holy, and like bless it, maybe do some sort of blessing to it. You'll know yourself what kind of thing that you'll need to do to elevate it from mundane to holy. So you have it magic, you have it decorated, you have done it, you've made it a bit holy, and all this type of thing, and it's it feels special and has all that kind of thing. So now what we're going to do is place objects within this, like totems, that are going to amplify the magic or kind of bring it in it a bit more. So it's not just a box with petitions in it. So you can put in, like, if you're into crystals, put in some crystals. If you're into stones, put in some stones. Or put in stuff that you've, like if you've a lucky coin and stuff like that. In a sense, what you put into it should in some way hurt a bit for you to lose. It should have enough value to you, or enough power, or enough significance to you, that not having it about for a year should in some way hurt. You should feel the loss of this thing, that you're borrowing the energy of that and placing it in this box for a year to increase the potency of this manifestation work that you're trying to do. So again, stones, coins, things that you find, like maybe a photo of yourself that you like, or some sort of personal thing, a locket, some sort of jewelry. What else could you put in it? Like something expensive, too, like maybe or a big thing of dragon's blood resin, or something that has a bit of value to it as well, or a particular prayer card that you always bring around with you, or some sort of relic, maybe saint relic, whatever. Any of these type of things that in some way you have value, feels holy, feels magic, feels that it would in some way amplify the signal. And then print out your statement of your intention, or whatever it is that you have decided is. Fold it up, place it in the box, seal it, and once it's sealed, know that you're not going to open it for another year. If, as I say, if you're doing it as part of the 47 thing, it'll be Halloween night. You'll have the Unifying Sigil within it. You can put it in maybe some other images or sigils of the servants that you like, that you particularly work with, that would be good for help manifest the goal you have, or ones that you just like working with, any of that kind of things. And then on Halloween night, you would do the next stage. If it's not the 47th, they can be done at any time, and you can get as specific as you want. Full moons, planetary days. Some sort of really some day where stars have all aligned. If you're into that, get the most auspicious day that you can. If you're not, just try and do something that's not sort of random, and it's not just kind of, oh, I'll do that on the way home from work, or do that tonight. Make some sort of occasion out of it, and so that it feels, again, magic, holy, special, sacred, that kind of thing. Then you're going to bury it. Well, I suggest you bury it, or put it in a place where you're not going to open it or mess with it for a year. Like if you're so inclined, like put it in a safe somewhere, or yeah, in films, like people did go into banks and have like their lockbox things, where whatever that's called, bank box. My brain doesn't work. Not something that's particularly happened in my life so much that I've interaction with, but you see it in films an awful lot. So if you've one of them, put it in there, or find a place that you won't disturb it. I have mine on my altar, and I have a statue above it and stuff like that. And it's just not something. Once it's sealed, it's sealed. I've never opened it. I'm good with that. I'm solid in that, so I don't feel I have to bury it or whatever. Now, that's because it's the 47 stuff as well, and maybe I will bury that at some stage in the future, make it very permanent. It depends. There's a part of me that feels that would be, that'd be good, or there'd be something in it, but that's for another day. But if I was actually just doing a time capsule one that wasn't related to the 47, I probably would bury it. I think there's something good in burying it. Rather than say throwing it away or putting it somewhere, there's a permanence to it, and there's also a safety to it. So find somewhere that won't be disturbed for a year. Like put it out in a forest where you'll be able to find it again too. After the year, and but put it on your shelf or your bookshelf if that's what works for you. That's the type of thing. What I would suggest that maybe that would help you in some way not open it in the year and not change your mind about it as well is put a curse on it. I know I said not to do curses or any kind of paintwork as your manifestation or as your idea for the game, but put it on it that something will happen, something bad will happen if you open it within the year. Like if I open it up and change my mind, take it out, and I decide that I've changed my mind about it, then there is a penalty to that. Come up with something like there'll be a loss of money, there will be some bad luck attached to it. Don't do something dreadful, but enough that will stop you in opening. That it will be a big enough deterrent, but not something that's going to destroy your fucking life if you open it, or if it happens to open, or whatever it is. So no death curses, no illnesses, don't do any of that. But there's something that, that again, like the stuff that you have in it, something that would actually feel a loss if it happened. Then you leave it for a year. And then you watch out for the stuff happening, and, you see if it does. And invariably it does in some way. It's the usual as what magic. It'll happen, but not in the way you want it. It's to a certain extent. It'll, so be careful of that, when you're making your intention, whatever. Usually what happens to me is that when I do stuff like this, long-term stuff like that, is that when I finally do read it after a year, it's different from what I remember it being. And I don't think that the writing has changed, my thing, but my kind of thoughts over it have changed. And there'll be stuff in it that I forgot that happened, and you go, oh yeah, I forgot, and that's totally happened. It's kind of like what happens with me with vision boards and stuff like that. Well, put stuff in a vision board, and then it's only later you're passing the vision board or whatever it is, and you go, oh look, there's that thing that I have now that was on my board and I forgot kind of all about it. Seems to be a bit of a thing about forgetting about it. That fire and forget thing does seem to work a lot of the time, that if you can forget about these things, that the luster result, or it seem to work in the background or something like that. Of course, trying to forget something makes it an awful lot harder. So it's the best is just to be relaxed about it as possible, and don't try to forget. Just let it gradually fall out of your consciousness. The more you try to remember stuff, or try to remember to forget stuff, the more impossible it is. That's just the way our brain works. So so then you have it for a year. It's a thing that will grow over the year. Should, by the time you come back to it at the end of next year, dig it up, pull it out, have a read, see if it worked, see what happened. If it didn't work, and that's the thing for any magic that I would suggest. If it works, do it again, and do exactly as it was, and good for you. There it is. You have a practical ritual that will work for you. If it doesn't, either don't do it again, or, which you're not going to learn much from, or augment it or change it in some way and shake it up and see if you can get a better result next time. And a year one can be quite hard if you're trying to test things out. So if you want, do ones for a month, do ones for 6 months, 3 months, that kind of thing. Or if you've something that you're working on, try the time capsule for 3 months. If it's job related or career related, or even to improve love or whatever, start it with a month, 3 months, stuff like that. And do big stuff that you want for a year, like big long-term kind of goals work for more for the year and stuff. So for this overall, things like I want to be a happier person, or I want to I want to be a happier person is kind of, how will I know when I'm a happier person? There has to be more of a thing to that. So that's not a good example. Don't listen to Tommy. But think of it in that, personal improvement goals are probably a good example of stuff to do over a year. Or career stuff's good to do over a year. But again, as just to reiterate, curse stuff, I wouldn't suggest it. Curse stuff could work over a month, over 3 months, something like that. But again, I'm not the guy for curse stuff. I'd rather banish people and be away from it rather than keeping that connection going and keeping myself embroiled in the whole thing and sustaining that stuff. But people love it. People love cursing people, so have at it. Let's look at my notes, see if I'm missing anything. No, that's kind of it. So if you want to do it as part of 4 servants, include sigils of the servants or images of the servants, but make sure you have the unifying sigil. And if you don't, do just stuff that is personally significant to you, or would include representations of entities or energies that is conducive or related to the manifestation of your desired goal. So if it's career stuff, stick in something Jupiter related. If you're doing the curse stuff, stick in, I don't know, Mars stuff, anything, that kind of the war energy, that kind of thing. But, come up with it yourself, and something that's relevant to you and subjective to you, and see how it goes, and let me know how it goes. And if you have any kind of ideas that are further around this idea of the time capsule magic, then let me know, and let's discuss it, and let's see if we can come up with better ideas. So, yeah. While I have time, I kind of mentioned there the idea of could the 47s be destroyed, or I did in one take of that. So if it's not actually in the actual podcast, and at one point I did talk about it, I just don't know offhand. I think it was in the last one I recorded. But this question came up that because I have 47s and I have the original ones. The original is not really the proper word, because the original ones, it's digital art, so they're printed. It was the first time they were printed out, and they were the cards or the representations I used during that ceremony. So they're the original in the sense, and they were the first. And I have them obviously in this box, whatever. So the idea that came across that came up was that I could destroy the 47s by destroying these original things. Because when I talked about the servitors in that servitor podcast, is put in something where you can destroy them or let go of them if you want. If it's something that you've decided you no longer want, have a kind of a self-destruct button. And in a way, the self-destruct button of the 47s is these cards that I used. So, excuse me, if I'm dead on my way and I destroyed them, would that destroy the 47s? Because technically that's the self-destruct button of it. And I was thinking about it, and the answer is I don't think it destroys the 47. In fact, I absolutely know it doesn't destroy the 47s. And I think it's gone too far, in a sense, for me to destroy the 47s, because there's too many lives kind of meshed, and there's too many people know about it, too many people are involved, too many people working with it, that even if I publicly denounced magic and the 47s and said it was all a sham or something, or that it was all a big trick, or that I was pulling the wool over people's eyes trying to fool, or whatever thing I would do in this possible future, then I still think people that still work for people would still use them. They would still get good value in them, all of that kind of thing. Because it comes down to the fact that this kind of the thought and my current thinking of what it is, and I've hinted about this a couple times in the podcast, is that I think, I don't think this 47s or any servitors, well, I'll only talk about the 47s. I cannot speak for all servitors. Other servitors are available. I don't think they certainly don't exist independent of human mind or consciousness, of human consciousness. They don't. There's no chance. They're not archetypical ideas in the Jungian archetypical sense of that they exist. I don't know. There's this idea based around Jungian archetypes that I'm not sure if it's Jung, but other people have had it, that these things exist outside of, like, if humans didn't exist, the idea of mother, the archetype of mother possibly exists. Or that is the gods exist outside of human thought, or human consciousness. And I would suggest, no, none of these things, nothing exists out of consciousness, but not, you see, it mightn't just be human consciousness. That's the thing, you don't know. But anyway, without getting too far down that thing of, what exactly are gods, conscious, all that. We've talked about this before. We've talked about this. I've talked about it to you. But 47, in my opinion, do not exist outside of human consciousness. They don't, because they were created 100% within human consciousness. Their life the growth, all of that stuff happened within human consciousness, on the sphere of human consciousness. So if all the humans in the world somehow died, or all the humans who know the 47 somehow died, they would cease to exist. If all of the, if traces also were removed. So, they would cease to exist if no one was able to, discover them again. And would they exist between the times of everyone? If everyone who knew them died, but there was still evidence left behind, but no one discovered it for 100 years, would the 47s exist in those 100 years? And I would suggest they wouldn't. But anyway, so they only exist in human consciousness. And I think by that, I've talked to you before about the idea space, where there's this kind of idea, Alan Moore's idea. It's not necessarily just his, but him who kind of is most known for us, who kind of talked about it most, that we all kind of have our own idea space that we're surrounded by, that there's some sort of collective unconscious idea space going on as well. It's hard to explain all these things, but what I think, basically, it's best to do it with just an example. I think the healer, my healer, that interact with me, that I envision, is different from your healer, although it shares a common bond or a common focus through that card, through that sigil, through this idea. There's a common idea, but I think my healer and your healer are different. Your healer is a subjective part of you. It's part of your reality tunnel, how you view the world. It's part of all of the people that are around you, how that's impacting you, how your circumstances impact you, your life has impacted you, your history, your country you live in, the area, your parents, who you are as a person, your interests. All of those things makes, when you look at the healer and see the healer, different than when I use the healer. Although common, part of the same idea space, part of the same collective unconscious, the same idea, but different. So that even if I destroyed my healer, because the healer is out there, your healer still exists. But it just means that I don't think the healer exists as a fully functional, outside of human consciousness entity on its own that can be destroyed. So even if, to answer the question, even if I did destroy the 47s in many, in the ways that I could, if you want, it doesn't destroy the 47's idea. In the same way that I don't think Stan Lee could ever kill Spider-Man, or that Bob Kane could destroy Batman, or Arthur Conan Doyle could destroy Sherlock Holmes, because to a certain extent it's no longer just his idea. He kind of is in control of it. Say Sherlock Holmes, the Arthur Conan Doyle, he was writing the stories, all that kind of things, and he did kill him in the end, had to bring him back because the idea was bigger than him, and also he needed the money. So not to equate totally severed doors with fictional characters, but there certainly is an overlap, and there's part of that the idea part of Sherlock Holmes is kind of somewhat similar to the idea part of a servitor, in that Sherlock Holmes only exists in human consciousness, the healer only exists in human consciousness, and it can impact humanity. Sherlock Holmes certainly impacts humanity, but it's not designed to impact or have a servant, or it's not designed to have that kind of impact on human society or human minds in the way that a servitor is, because that's what its function is. So fictional characters do share the same ground, say, as servitors, but are different in the intention was different, the function is different, where Sherlock Holmes' function is to entertain, say, and to be entertaining. The healer's function is to heal and impact human consciousness in a different way. So not just to do, like, kind of say the servants are just fictional characters. Yes, but I think there's an extra element to it as well. So this is a roundabout way of saying I don't think I could destroy the 47s, because I think it's gone too far. I think the cat's out of the bag. People have their own thing, and especially when you see people, how they use them and how they approach the 47s, or this is what I think this one is about, or this whatever, and you kind of go, well, you're bringing a lot of your own stuff to that, and part of me is kind of hesitant to that, because just that whole thing where people start seeing servitors getting out of control and ruining their lives and all that, and it's just kind of back down on that thing. It's just to say that they don't have their own agency, but they're not going to destroy your life. They're not going to change in function, or they're not going to do that kind of thing. The healer's always going to be the healer. She's not going to become a mechanic. She's not going to become a chef. Because that's how they were built. Your healer and my healer are going to be different. And I suppose that kind of leads to the whole thing of why does the servants work better for others, or differently for others, or quicker than others? Because they're they're aspects of you, but the bigger you. It's not just like, oh, it's all in your head. It's like that Lon Mile thing of it's all in your head, but you've no idea how big your head is. So I'm not kind of poo-pooing the idea of it's all in your head. It's elevating the idea of it's all in your head. It's all in consciousness. It's all of that kind of thing, rather than smalling it or making it smaller or lessening it or whatever. So my healer, your healer, share ground. There are a shared idea in idea space, in consciousness or whatever, but may act differently or appear different or are slightly different because we are two different people. Ultimately, there's only one person in the room, but from this vantage point or this perspective, we have, we're splintered, we're shard, whatever. We're all different focuses of attention within consciousness. So yeah, that's it. Like, it's just, I don't think they can be destroyed. I can definitely remove them from my life and my sphere of influence and all of those things. But I don't think no matter what I would do at this point, they would cease to exist for you unless you wanted them to. So people don't be worrying about that kind of thing. If you like the 47s, they're around for you. The thing, which is why when I kind of at the beginning suggested that people do that introductory rite, where you hang out with them for a while and see that thing before you read the book. Hang out with the opposer and what is he saying to you? How's he resonating with you? Well, what's bringing that up for you? Rather than just going straight to the book and go, this is what the opposer is, and then not learning how or having that subjective thing, because the subjective thing for me is very important, and we live in a world where subjectivity is it's the worst thing you can possibly have. It's frowned upon, where everything has to be objective and you have to see it objectively, and anecdotal evidence is terrible. It's not worth anything. But we're subjective people. We're we're subjective beings, and it's how we view the world. And it's all well and good trying to be objective, but we're not objective. We can never be objective. We can build science machines and try and look at the world objectively, but we build the science machines subjectively. We analyze the stuff to pump out subjectively. All these things, and there's a level of objectivity we have, but not to throw subjectivity out of the way, because that's how we view the world. That's how we exist. That's kind of, I feel, the whole point of this is to be, what's the point of having a focus of energy within consciousness unless there has to be something about subjectivity that we need or want or desire, or it has value. And we definitely don't value subjectivity enough. And I think you should value it in magic probably more than it does. Chaos magic is a bit more subjective than the other forms of magic, which is why I like it and hang out with chaos magicians, because they're fun. So anyway, long story short, could I destroy the 47th if I wanted to? Yes, I could, but no, I don't think it would be as effective, and I don't think it would affect you in the way that you would worry about it. So yeah. So that was another episode of the Tommy Kelly podcast, and if you like that sort of thing, you can go to tommykelly.com and that will bring you to all of the episodes. I'm hosted by SoundCloud, but you can get it on any podcatcher you want. It's on iTunes, Pocket Casts, all of these things. And if you go to tommykellypodcast.com, you will find the links to all of these. If it doesn't work in your podcatcher of choice, let me know and I'll try to sort that out, unless it's Spotify, and I've no idea how to do that. If you go to adventuresinwoowoo.com, you'll find all of the stuff. In fact, you'll find the podcast there as well. So it's probably just, if you want to remember one URL, then it's adventuresinwoowoo.com, WOOWOO. And all of the stuff's there. I'm currently trying to update it, and not really update it, but kind of make it a bit more user-friendly and stuff like that. At the minute, it's not a mess by any means, but it definitely could be better. It could be improved upon. So, but check that out. It's a lot of stuff, magic, all the stuff from 4 Servants, 4 Devils, podcast, videos, vlogs, all those things. Social media, I'm usually at Tommy Kelly. On Facebook, it's at Tommy Kelly Artist, or you can just check out the Adventures in Woo Woo page itself. If you Facebook Adventures in Woo Woo, you'll find it. There's the 47 Facebook group, which is a wonderful group. You should check it out. And I'm on Twitter, Instagram, stuff like that. You'll find me. If you want to help me out, the best thing you can do is share this stuff. Just tell other people about it. If you like the podcast, or leave a comment, leave a rating on the book or the deck if you've bought it. Just generally talk about it and that kind of thing. It's brilliant. It's really helpful. It is so helpful. Or you can help me with your monies by going to tommykelly.com or just search for me on Patreon. And last month I got a new Wacom tablet out of from the kind support of people on Patreon, and it's wonderful, and it's really upped my game by my art. And every month I try to use that money for something to improve it. So it's not just that the money that's pledged to me just goes to beer and pizza. It's to improve the thing. So it's better hosting, better gear, better all that kind of stuff or whatever. So search me on Patreon or tommykelly.com. That's TOMMIE, Tommy. But again, go to Adventures in Woo Woo. There's a link there. So, good people of the internet, may you have a wonderful week. May it be very Halloween-esque, if it's Halloween when you're listening to this. We're about a week away from Halloween, just over a week. And have a spooky time. And if it's, February or something when you're listening, just have a February time. Enjoy whatever's going on around you, and just have a general soaking in of the ambience of the time of year that you're situated in. And most of all, be well, and I'll talk to you all next week.